just a bluff for the weak. Might take a peek in my self-pity to realize it's selfishness for the meek. Just take these pills, it makes it better, but withdrawals will make you seize up and tweak. You gotta buy it every month, we change the brand, it's more expensive this week. I'll hold my chin up, keep this grin up like my mother, she can worry like me. But if I have you, life is worth it, love is more than a contagious disease. I think of you, I think of me, a family, is this another pipe dream? But if these dreams mean anything, I'm gonna think whatever I want to think. I just can't convince myself to look. Why can't I be strong in the place where you read your books? I just can't rely on happenstance. Didn't say goodbye before you died, I should've took that chance. But you'll never leave me, no, my heart is bleeding, and I know this feeling's not fleeting. Your hugs were the best thing, just wrapped up in your strength. I'd give up to be there right now. I just want you back, we all want that. I just wish that you hadn't forgotten. I hate this disease, I hate human beings. We fall apart before we get broken. I just can't believe you're not here with me. We should be out back sitting underneath that willow tree. Talk and I'd be listening. I didn't take the time to read your mind before you forgot me. Okay. But you'll never leave me, no, my heart is bleeding, and I know this feeling's not fleeting. Your hugs were the best thing, just wrapped up in your strength. I'd give up to be there right now. I just want you back, we all want that. I just wish that you hadn't forgotten. I hate this disease, I hate human beings. We fall apart before we get broken. Lock myself in my room to listen to voices recorded. Don't walk outside to avoid being avoided. This feeling that comes with not having a purpose. If I find something soon, maybe I won't feel so worthless. I've always felt this rhythm, but I thought it'd be pointless. Playing music that's for rich folks, not a prophet of poignance. Pointless is a feeling that comes over me often. Though I keep going for a fear of not affording my own coffin. I know I sound sad, but I've got to be honest. It's soothing to me and it helps with my progress. If writing these songs helps me change, then I have to. everyone that I matter to. I've got this feeling life won't always be like this. My dad said to me, it's your calling, your purpose. Walking through this life like a man with no shadow. Always by myself, just trying to find my way. I've got no idea of how to get this thing started. Looking for a way out never got me by. I'm so scared and I don't know what to do. All this medicine does is hide the truth. How could you be happy if you've got nothing to prove? So get up and get out there, son, what you got to lose. Walking through this life, forgetting strife in the rear view. Don't prolong the pain, I owe myself more than that. If I learned my lesson, could I go back to high school? Tell myself to have some fun, don't be so pent up. I'm so scared and I don't know what to do. All this medicine does is hide the truth. How could you be happy if you've got nothing to prove? So get up and get out there, son, what you got to lose. Lock the door and run hot water. My sights are skewed, forgive me, Father. Sent you a text over dramatic. Got the response I wish I hadn't. I feel ashamed beneath my sleeves. Too much has changed, I have to leave. I love my family, I love my friends. And as for you, some good things end. I've made mistakes, I wish I hadn't. Things don't just change, we make them happen. I proved a point, forgave my father. Became less bitter, cause love is softer.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome tonight. It is the SchuBros. We are here. We're just going to hem and haw a little bit, right, Kyle?
Yeah, him and haul around, and you never know what happens. And then every once in a while, we get the pleasure of bringing in a guest. So if you want to go ahead, we'll go ahead and introduce him. We got Mr. Frankie Fasolo. Hopefully, I pronounced that right.
Perfect.
So we got him willing to join us. We've asked him to come on the show tonight to talk about Article 7, the LGBTQ community in general. And then, as we do, topics kind of just pop up and we talk about them. So we will definitely end up talking about something random tonight. I'm not sure what it'll be yet, but, with Ross here, who knows? It'll be aliens. Who knows?
So Frankie, how are you doing tonight? I mean, and thank you so much for joining us. For guys, I do know that Frank's video has moved around. I'm working to fix it, so we'll get Frank back to normal size here in a second. Give me a second. Okay, there he went. He went back to normal size on his own. Great. So cool. All right. So other than that, guys, thank you so much for joining us, Frankie. Thank you for having us on. Thank you for being a part of this. So I mean, for those of our guests who may not know who you are, why don't you tell our guests a little bit about yourself and what you believe in and what you're doing here?
That's a good question. A little bit about me. I just kind of joined TikTok and I started going with all these like trends and just having fun with it, being in quarantine. I'm a yoga instructor. I have my own cosmetics company and not knowing what to do with my time. So then I just started kind of going with these trends. And then as the time kept passing by, I started noticing a lot of chaos in our country. And I was getting frustrated and I was like, oh my God, you know what? I need to like be vocal about this. I need to come out as a Trump supporter to let people know that it's okay to be gay and to support our president. Because for a while I had to just keep my mouth shut of being afraid of being ostracized. So I started making videos that were bringing humor, but also related to what's going on. So that's pretty much, me in a nutshell, is just trying to entertain people, educate people that, speak up. It's time. Like we can't be silent anymore.
So
we've all been played,
There would be a lot of people who would say, you being a Trump supporter is kind of against what they would call your community. But you don't feel that way. You feel that Trump is the candidate that best suits you. So what kind of draws you to President Trump? What about President Trump's policies or what he's preaching really makes you such a supporter of his that you felt the need to come out in support of him?
Before he even, in 2016, actually, when he announced he was running, because I was like, I'm going to vote for Hillary. Like I was on that bandwagon. I was like, oh my God, I'm definitely going to vote for Hillary. I never really like dug deep into policies. It was more just like elections came and I was like, all right, you watch the news and they feed you a bunch of information that they want you to receive. Maybe it's, false narratives, but, at the time, you just kind of like believe in it. And then Trump announced he was running and I go, wait a minute, this is completely different. And I've met Trump when I was a kid. My family, we all love him. So, and at first everyone's like, he's not going to get that, he's not going to win that Republican primary. Definitely not. And I was like, no way. We are all converting to Republican to get Trump elected because I know that he is a good man. He loves his country. And he's not a typical Republican, a conservative that, that idea of, the party's completely shifted, I think, because of him. So at that moment, I go, he doesn't care about you're gay. He doesn't care about race or sex, any of that. He just wants everyone to succeed so that everyone can provide, have a sense of, pride in their country, in their businesses. And I felt like it was time for a businessman to lead our country, not a crooked politician. I don't think, and the narrative I've noticed I'm sorry, I just keep rambling now.
No, you're fine.
No, you're good.
The media, I noticed because I would watch all of his rallies word for word, and then I would watch like the news, and they would just like cut a piece. And I'm like, he didn't say it like that. He didn't mean it like that. Why are they doing that? So then I was like, okay, there's something going on here. I think he's going to drain the swamp, as he said, because everyone's getting crazy. They wanted Hillary so bad that they literally dragged our country through the mud his entire presidency. Like they never got over it. And that's why I was like, there's something deeper here. You know, it's not a, we're not, gay people are not like a one track issue. You know, we have families, we have religious beliefs. We're not all one way. Like, I don't like to be clumped into a category. You know what I'm saying? And we care about our country. I 100% love my country, and I want what's best for the people. You know, I believe in that. That's pretty much it. I guess that
That's
was a
very,
lot.
very well said, young man. Very well said. So I guess that's actually one thing we never actually did really touch with how old you are, but it doesn't really matter. But actually, it kind of does.
I'm gonna be 40 this year.
How old did you say?
I'm 39 right now.
Okay, so you're gonna be over the hill this year.
Yes.
All right.
So what we like to say is you're going to celebrate the 11th anniversary of your 29th birthday.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
Forever 27.
So you're not the oldest person in the world, but you're not the youngest either. So you've been there and you've done that, and you've been through some of the struggles of the LGBTQ community. You know, from not being able to do a lot of things as a you know, individual to now having the right to do just about anything you want to do. Is there anything you personally feel that you cannot do at this time that any other American can do?
I have to give 100% credit to, like, you know, the history of our community, what they went through, the struggles. I mean, it was real, you know, and because of their fight and struggle, I never had that feeling of like I wasn't able to do anything. But as I was, you know, able to vote, you know, when you turn 18, you're able to vote. None of the parties really believed in any of what we wanted. You know, they kind of, like, the Democrats always tried to pander and, like, we don't support gay marriage, but, you know, we'll, you know, protect you in some way. The Republicans always went more the religious route, like, definitely not. So, you know, you were kind of turned off as like a new voter, an 18-year-old. You're young, you know, your mind is still impressionable, and you kind of were turned off. You were like, well, the Republicans don't want me. The Democrats kind of want me. Who do I vote for? You know, I want to, you know, speak. I want to share my voice. And so you kind of always went with the Democratic Party because they were good at, you know, wording things. They were very clever on how to get that minority vote. And the Republicans didn't get it. They really didn't get it at the time. Although my values aligned more with the Republican Party because I'm definitely a fiscal conservative, but I'm a social liberal. Like, you know, like, I believe people all should have the right to live their truth. You know, that's just my opinion. But and I think that's the shift that Trump did. He completely changed the politics in our country. And unfortunately, the media did not catch on. They were so hell-bent on Hillary Clinton that they couldn't see past it. And all they kept doing is just shoving this narrative of like, he's, you know, anti-migration, anti-this. And it was like, no, he believes in legal migration. Like, my parents, I'm first generation here. My parents came here, and my father came here in the 60s, then went back, married my mother. They came here back together in the 70s. I was born in the 80s, and, you know, like, first generation here, I'm for my, you know, immigrants, legal immigration. But the media changed that narrative completely. It was like, he's anti-immigrants. Like, what? It just, and then from there it shifted and it kept getting deeper and darker. If you noticed, he never said that. Like, I always feel like I have to, like, justify everything he says because people just believe what, you know, the media says.
And that's,
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
definitely noticed that on our end too. Go ahead.
yeah.
Ross.
So we see that all the time, of course. So I guess, I mean, when you became public as a Trump supporter, I'm sure you have friends and people within your community who are not Trump supporters. Was there any amount of vitriol? Was there any amount of love lost amongst people you knew for the way you believe, or was there people who supported you standing up and speaking out? What, like you said, your truth is this. So was there anything there where people just didn't treat you the same because of knowing that you now support it the way you did?
Well, yeah, originally I was very vocal. Like 2016, I was like all about buying all Trump gear. I was, you know, letting everybody know. I didn't know that there was going to be a backlash. I didn't know because I didn't believe that the racial car, the everything that people are saying about him, the negative stuff. I didn't believe that because I know him that he like not that I know him personally. I'm saying I know his values in terms of like when it comes to the people that he surrounds himself with. Like he has the first gay cabinet member, in his like it just didn't make any sense to me. But at the time, I felt like I'm going to be vocal, and then the media kept like, oh, if you believe that Trump is a good person, and for some reason the other side just was louder and in your face where you felt you had to kind of, ooh, I'm going to be ostracized. Let me be quiet, especially in my industry. I'm in the beauty industry. I also teach yoga. And you just felt like they were more vocal in terms of like, just be quiet. And so you felt like you had to be quiet. And so I just stopped talking about politics because it's a very partisan issue. And I love I'm not the type that just likes Republicans and just thinks liberals are crazy sometimes. But my best friend is anti-Trump and I will love her forever. Like, it doesn't matter to me. Like, I believe that you have the right to believe in whatever you want. And that should never come between somebody, you know? I was on a tangent and, oh, the backlash, sorry. So one night, watching all this crazy stuff, I just posted like, Trump make America great. All of a sudden, I looked at how many followers I had and like 20 dropped. And then getting some messages like, how can you support he's anti-gay? Haven't you watched the news, the media saying that he's trying to get rid of your rights? I'm like, do you know how the Constitution works? Like, it's not him trying to get rid of any rights. Like, that's not how it works. But they automatically try to throw that at you. And they're not even gay. And they're trying to tell you that. You're like, what? You don't even know what it is to be gay. You don't put me in that category. So I did get a little backlash, but I actually got more support in that community that I could have imagined. Private messages. Oh my God, I feel the same exact way. I can't believe that you're speaking out. Thank you so much. Like, I feel like I had to keep it quiet. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to be quiet anymore. If you're going to respect me and love me, then you have to respect my politics too. You can't just like somebody for, just because they agree with you. Then what's that about? Like,
Yeah, we've seen a lot of it recently. It's like no one likes you as much as they like hearing their opinion come out of your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely something that we've seen. Within the Black community, the LGBTQ community, it's very interesting to see, from a straight white male's perspective, how on TikTok how embraced like you and several other creators are for being a Trump supporter, but at the same time, and go look in your comments and how much hate and vitriol you're getting all at the same time. Like, you're getting a lot of love, but at the same time, you're getting a lot of hate. So it's very interesting for me to look at that and be like, well, I mean, just look at the content he's making. It's good content. So that's what matters to me. But you have made quite a bit of anti-Biden content lately, as well as pro-Trump content, which both of them have gotten me hitting that like button and going, yeah, man, good way to speak the truth. So
but if you notice more support for, I know people that did not vote for Trump in 2016. They were voting for Hillary. They did not like him in the gay community. And they're telling me now, what is going on that side? Like, what happened? They don't feel like Biden is coherent. He may be a puppet for that side, so that, and they're scared. They don't want, they want their country to succeed with someone that has proven results. And if you really look at what Trump has done with all that backlash, with the craziness, with the impeachment, I mean, he's really created an amazing economy. Unfortunately, we've been struck with a virus that you can't blame him for. But you know what? They're more mad about him calling it a Chinese virus than mad about where it came from. Like, that's what I'm saying. It's just been very, confusing lately.
Hey, Ross, I can't hear you.
Sorry, I had taken a drink, so I muted myself. So
Oh.
if we go back and we look at the timeline of events, if we stack them up and we say, okay, when did who do what? And we say, okay, Trump in late January issues the travel ban. And, okay, there were people who still came into the United States from China, but those people were U.S. citizens. We cannot block a U.S. citizen from returning back to the United States. We're not allowed to do that. If he had done that, there would have been an uproar about how it was racially motivated that he's not allowing citizens in China to come back from China. So that's bar one. We then see that on February 5th, we have the University of Washington gets a working test kit that the FDA blocks them from mass producing. Then on February 24th, you have Nancy Pelosi standing in San Francisco in Chinatown saying, it's all okay, it's great, come on out to Chinatown, there's no need to worry, you can come out, you can spend your time here. We have March 5th, Trump declares a national emergency. March 12th, you have de Blasio saying everybody should be going out to the movies, everybody should be going to the theater, we shouldn't be shutting down, we shouldn't worry about this. And then come April 1st, the Democrats are saying Trump never did anything. Trump never did anything. He left us out in the cold. And it's Trump had the CDC on January 5th. They set the first travel warning. On January 15th, they enriched the travel warning, saying it was now a travel restriction. And then on January 29th, Trump places a travel ban. So 3 things happened from the Trump administration. On January 12th, Trump tried to send CDC members to China, but they were blocked from entering China.
And they still haven't gone in, as far as I know.
They still haven't been allowed in to investigate the origins of this virus. So he sent them there then. And the other part of this that we now know, and this has not been reported in the United States that I can see, and I know about this because I work for French people, they now have confirmed cases of COVID-19 in France in November. So this whole, if we'd have shut it down first part of February, we'd have said, no, it was already here. It just hadn't gotten to the point where we are now. And then there's a lot of other things there. And in New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Michigan, California, these are the states that by law forced nursing homes and long-term care facilities to take COVID action patients. And they say, well, you're killing grandma, you're killing grandma. That's literally killing grandma. So, I mean, what for the people in your area who say it's Trump that's doing this, but yet it was those governors who made those policies. There was nothing in the CDC recommendations. What is your response to them living amongst them?
It's frustrating because we don't get the facts. They just like to talk a lot. You watch the news and you hear these governors talk. I have to say, it's very, you just don't understand where it's coming from. Like, why did that happen? Why are we hearing like these whistleblower nurses coming out saying, what's going on in these hospitals? It doesn't seem that is, legit. They're not doing the right thing. And the nursing homes, like one of my friends' grandmother was in a nursing home and she got COVID, but you know what? She survived COVID in the nursing home, but then she passed away, like 3 weeks later. Who knows if it had anything really, if something, was lingering, but she wasn't able to go visit, or nobody was. So these people are left alone. So they didn't really protect the fragile community as the CDC recommended, like the most fragile community. So, luckily I don't have anybody in that environment that's in the nursing home, but I would be mad as hell if like I had a grandmother in the nursing home and they went in that route and they didn't protect the most fragile community. It's all very bizarre to me. But I should slow it down because I'm talking too fast and not breathing. And I'm very sorry for that.
Oh, no worries. You're
I'll
talking
go back to certain issues that you asked about that I just went off tangents.
No, you're
You're talking to 2 native Texans here. We're known to
Come
get
on, boy,
talking
we can talk
fast.
like this now. Come on. I need $1 here, I need $1 there. I got two. Come on now. Come on, God. Hey, $3 there, $3 there. Come
Ask
on.
questions about how to do proper research. because I've been getting a lot of that from people on, that are not Trump supporters, that I'm trying to let them know, like, look deeper, don't just because, it's like from, AP or whatever, NPR or Today or New York Times, like they're opinion journalists sometimes that are very one-sided. And they wanted me to ask you, how do you dive deeper to find the truth? Now I'm asking you questions.
So that's
fine.
That's a
I
great
just
question.
feel like you guys know what's going on, and I'm just like your average citizen, and know.
So we say, you heard us say him and haw, and you may not know that's an acronym for us. So we call that highly educated morons who talk about hunting, ammo, and whiskey. So Kyle and I both have college degrees. You can see the Syracuse hat. That's where my master's degree is from. Kyle went to Texas A&M. He has a bachelor's degree in engineering from Texas A&M. I have an MBA. I also have a bachelor's degree in business management. I also hold a PMP certification. So we know how to research. We know how to verify facts. We know how to cite sources. And this is something that you don't see on Twitter. You don't see on Facebook. None of this, nobody ever cites things. So what I do is I try to look for independent, unbiased data. That's what I'm always looking for. That's what I want. I want to see raw data that hasn't been manipulated, that hasn't been sent through a thing to try to make it this or that. I want to just see the data. And if I can just see the data, that means that I can then better figure out what I think is actually going on. And because then I can make my own opinion. I'm not taking what somebody else's opinion about it is. I'm not reading the New York Times. I'll read the New York Times and I'll get what they think it is. And then I'll go look at the bare data and see if it really bears true, or if they're stretching or forgetting about another variable or something else to try to make something look better than it is. So I'm an economist. I study economics. I talk about economics a lot on this show. It's what I like. I'm starting a PhD in economics in the fall. So it's about seeing that bare data. And like you said, you can go to these biased sources. And what I like to say is, at this point in time and where we are now, there's no such thing as an unbiased source. The only unbiased source is data. So when you read Fox News, you then have to go read CNN. And if you read Breitbart, you need to turn around and read HuffPost. And you need to see it from both sides and see the argument coming from either side to kind of get a better perspective of where, and then the truth probably lies somewhere between, right?
Wait. What's your counterpoint to Daily Wire?
There's not a lot of counterpoint to Daily Wire.
What about Daily Caller?
I like Daily Caller, but Daily Wire, I mean, I'd say Politico is kind of my leftist counterpoint to Daily Wire, maybe.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what we do. It's like we don't just trust one source. We would definitely be posting, like, we have a Discord server where we're posting articles back and forth for each other to read and keep apprised to. And you'll see HuffPost, you'll see New Yorker, you'll see all these different publications come in to our Discord, because we'll see something that's interesting and then we want each other to know about. And then because we also talk sports, ESPN, 24/7, Texags, and a few other sports.
When is it a noose? When is it a knot?
Yeah.
That's where we are right now in the world.
Yeah. So that one's kind of interesting, because from a layman's perspective, from someone who doesn't understand the nuances of a noose, that definitely looks like a noose.
Yep.
But from someone who understands how a noose actually operates, for a fact it's not a noose, because it has an end hanging out, and also when you pull on it, it doesn't tighten. So that's not a noose, but it sure looks like one. So we kind of in that same, we're kind of in that predicament where we're like, well, it's not a noose, but it's definitely not a noose at the same time.
You can understand how somebody that I don't know if you know, Frankie, are you aware of this story, the Bubba Wallace story?
Yes.
Okay. So they released the picture today of the noose. The noose. Okay. And from the first picture, which is very zoomed in, like it's very close, it makes it look bigger than it actually is. Because what I've just found is another picture from a different angle where a guy is standing beside it, so you get the relationship of scale, and it's very small. I mean, it's tiny. So it's like, okay.
The loop is maybe as big around as my headphone here. It's it's not very big.
It's like you could hang a Barbie from that if that was a noose.
Yeah.
So the thing about it is that, okay, like Kyle said, I can kind of understand that if you were unaware of what it was, it looks enough like a noose that you would believe it's a noose. Kyle and I both served in the we're both in the Boy Scouts. I did demolition in the military. Demolition in the military is tying knots. That's pretty much all you do in demolition is tie knots. So I'm very quick at saying it's not a noose. It's because you have your trunk line and you have your tail line on a knot, right? And a noose has to be able to slide along the trunk line, which is the main part of the rope. The part of the rope, the longer part of the rope. The tail, which of course is the end, on a noose would be sticking in because you want it to slide freely. You don't want it to cinch. You want the looped part to stay loose enough to slide along the trunk. Whereas with it sticking out, it's going to cinch and it's going to tighten and create a hard loop that you can then pull on and it'll stay a loop. This is common in boating. If you've ever been in sailing, you would have seen it.
So the point was that the media, again, never goes back to retract stories. They just kind of like throw things out there, watch people go crazy, and then move on to the next story just to get their ratings up. Like that was the point of why people are frantic about situations. They just get very worked up and overheated because they instantly just like get the headlines, they just see that perspective, and then they run away, and they wait for the next crazy story to happen.
That is definitely something we've seen on our end is people reading headlines and maybe a blurb and making an opinion based entirely on that and not actually diving into the article itself and reading the full article. Mm-hmm. Because the headline is sensationalized in order to grab your attention, and they'll make an entire decision based on that and that alone, and that because of that they'll go, well, of course Trump is racist. He doesn't like immigration. But then if you read into the article, it talks about how, Trump isn't actually against immigration. He's just against certain types of immigration.
He's deported less people than Obama, Biden did by this point in time in their presidential administration. Things like that.
Yeah. So, they're just worried about the children in the cages at the border, but they don't realize that it was, Obama's administration who put those cages in the first place. So.
Or just following the law, with limited resources it's just too much is going on for them to handle. And they could have fixed this problem, long time ago.
Well, and the funny part of that,
all these problems.
And the funny part of that is Trump asked a federal judge to let him get rid of that rule, the Mendez rule. And the judge said, no, you have to keep it. So what Trump wanted to do is he wanted to keep the parents with the children. He didn't want to separate them. That was Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton put that law into place. That was Janet Reno. That had nothing to do with the Trump administration. That didn't come from Jeff Sessions. That came from Janet Reno. That was the deal they made. And you can understand why when they did it, what the premise of it was is you didn't want to have little children going to prisons or jails with their parents. You didn't want them in there with grown adults that may have to try to harm them.
Exactly. But the reason.
Go ahead.
And or if they're being child trafficked, you don't want that happening either.
Drugs coming through, you don't know what's happening. But I'm happy you brought up Bill Clinton because that going back to the LGBT and like that whole backlash from people, coming at me saying, well, he's doing this and Trump is, taking away rights. But Bill Clinton was the one who came up with the DOMA, Defense of Marriage Act. Mm-hmm. I'm sure he was trying to get more again into more the center towards the right leaning, mm-hmm. and getting away from what liberals wanted. So he imposed that, and George Bush then made it by state, so that it was able then for states to decide, right? Because that's what I love about the Republican Party. It's, local government as opposed to big government taking over. And that's what people don't understand. I think that's a really big key point that we have to let people know is that when you're dealing with local government, it's easier to get things done. And that's what you kind of want to happen rather than imagine if it was, okay, I'm just going to bring this up with the lesbian couple who fought for the marriage. I'm trying to remember.
In Kentucky?
When they...
Oh, okay, in New York. I thought you were talking about the
one passed away and then she couldn't get the benefits and all of that because they weren't legally married. It was a big court case. So it went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court, they did a vote on it and they passed it, okay? Obama signed it. So now Obama gets the credit for marriage, right? That's the eyes of the people. It's like, oh, he signed it. But if the Supreme Court's going to pass something and then the president signs it, it's really the Supreme Court. They went through the process of the hearings and they decided that that was the law and they wanted to let it go through. So if imagine that it didn't pass, okay? And the president just signed it. And that's the whole thing with the Supreme Court instead of going through Congress. And I get that whole part of it. So imagine you had that didn't pass, the president signs it, and now what do you have here? You know, you have the opposite spectrum, and that's the whole thing with the like being. Oh God, I was on a point here with this one. It was just letting the president decide on the rights rather than going through the Congress. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's no permanence
maybe you
to
could
it.
clarify that for me better because I'm like
Well,
trying to
there's
think of
yeah, the argument here is there's no permanence with an executive order. That the next president can just simply come along and write a different executive order. So this is the argument with DACA right now. The left is saying, "Oh, well, Trump can't end it. Trump can't end it. This is a law." And it's not a law. It's an executive order. It simply is that the Obama administration was not going to deport. It's not that these people were not eligible for deportation. They were. They should have been deported by law. He just wasn't going to go after it. So it's like Obama decided in 14 that Colorado legalized marijuana, but marijuana is still not actually legal in Colorado. It's a federal offense to own marijuana, to sell marijuana. But the president said, "Well, we're not going to worry about it. We're going to let the state do what the state wants." And conservatives actually rejoiced on that one. It was okay. Yeah, that's a state rights thing. If the state of Colorado has voted for this, then that's up to the state of Colorado to make that decision. It's not up to the state of Texas. It's not up to the state of Utah. It's not up to the state of New York or California. It's up to the state of Colorado. And I've argued this on almost everything. It's like, look, if you want to, I've argued this with Californians. If you want universal health care, then Californians should vote for universal health care. And then they should pay for universal health care. The Californians should, not the rest of us. And then if Texas does not want universal health care, then Texas can say, no, we're not going to do universal health care, and we're going to do so. What I've argued for, what I've written policy for, is that each state should get a certain amount of money per person for health care from the federal government, and then that's your money. You spend that money how you please as a state. But you're not going to get any more. You're not going to get any less. This is what you're getting, and then you figure out what's best for you. And if you're in California and you want to give every undocumented immigrant in your state free health care, fine. But anything that costs more than what the federal government gives you is on your state taxpayers to pay, not on anybody from any other state. Because you live in New Jersey. So you get a tax break Kyle and I do not have access to. Because you get to write off your state income taxes. We don't have state income taxes. So we don't get to write that off our federal income taxes. So how's that fair that people in California get to write off $8,000 of their federal income tax and I don't? It means I pay a higher percentage of my income to the federal government than people in other states would.
Yeah, but at the same time, we don't have to pay a state income tax, so
but
we
that's
still
not
have
the
that
argument.
money.
you get nothing back. Trust me.
That's
you
not
don't want to.
It's a separate argument, though.
Highest taxes. It's hard to live here.
People
leave to go somewhere else.
It shouldn't be, oh, we don't pay state income tax, so we should be fine paying more to this one entity, right? Our taxes should be equal to the federal government, regardless of what state you live in.
Tax rate.
Yeah, I would love a flat tax rate. I think most conservatives would love a flat tax rate, but we're never going to get there. So, Frankie, we've gone to talking about things other than you, and the whole point of this is to talk about you.
Oh.
So Frankie, let's talk a little more. You said that you were going to vote for Hillary. So
Yes.
had you been a Democrat your whole life, or had you voted just based on who you thought was best at that time? Was it one of these walk away kind of stories? Is it kind of like that, or is it more just I
really
like
like
Trump?
I voted Democrat. When I was, before I was able to vote, my values aligned more with the Republican Party. When I would do papers in school, for some reason, like I just felt like, I didn't like the Clintons. For some reason, I just wanted Hillary at that point in my life. I was like, oh, a woman, and you would watch her and you'd be like, okay, she's gonna do something for us, And then my brother-in-law actually is very conservative. He's like Tell me why. I'm like, well, she's a woman and she's a mom. She's going to be a good person. He's like, really? That's why you're going to vote for her? And I was like, well, he's like, look into it a little bit further. And then, then I find out Trump. And then I instantly was like, all right, see ya, Hillary. I'm going for Trump. So Trump really brought in a very different crowd. And I don't think anyone else would have won. I think she would have won if he didn't win that primary. I really do. I think she would have won if it was some other Republican. But anyway, so I kind of walked away as soon as he came down that escalator. I was like, I'm hooked. This is it. So that's really it. I voted Democrat always, and then he came down. I said, I'm going to the Republican side.
So have you ever thought about joining a group like, say, like now the Log Cabin Republicans or Gays for Trump or something like this? Has that ever been, or are you more looking to just stay kind of independent with your thought process?
I haven't really thought that far. Like I've played with the idea of like maybe I should run for like local politics and do something. But then I kind of go with the moment and see how I feel. I have my feet in many different avenues. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I can't like say that right now.
So I did want to talk about one thing you did point out earlier, and it's very true, and we're having a big issue with it on the right, and Kyle and I and some other people that we know, we're kind of fighting against it, is that the right does not do a very good job of reaching out to certain communities. And one of those communities is the African American community. Another community is the LGBTQ community. We have a very hard time reaching out to those communities. One is they're not super receptive of our message a lot of the times, right? You get shouted at pretty quick. But number two is that we have a history of not reaching out to these communities. So now it's kind of like, oh, well, we haven't really come for you for 30, 40 years. So now all of a sudden that we're trying to outreach to you, it seems a little disingenuous. It seems...
But especially in an election year. Had it been non-election year, maybe it'd be a little bit better received.
But
okay.
Oh, what?
I'm sorry. No, finish your thought, and then I'll join in.
Okay, so part of the issue here is that conservatives, Republicans kind of think, okay, well, everybody should be equal. We shouldn't go after a specific segmented group. We should try to improve everybody as a whole instead of trying to improve certain segments of the population. But we've gotten to a point in the world, whether we like it or not, that we do have to understand that we need to be talking to these certain populations and explaining how our policies. We don't have to create a set of policies to affect certain subgroups. But what we do need to do is make sure that we're saying how our policies, how being a conservative, how believing in individual freedom and states' rights and things like you just talked about, how those benefit these people in this community so that they can then see the value to them to vote for us versus the value of voting for the other party, which says they have their interests in mind. But I think we could argue over the last 30 years, the other side really hasn't had anybody interest in mind but their own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you make that point correctly. That's the point of why I voted Democrat my whole life. The Republicans never really reached out to the minority community, and their whole message was, they're very constitutionalist. They want everyone to have, like, as a whole picture, but not recognizing the struggles of certain communities. And that did change with Trump. I have to say, he was able to bring in, he was the first person to like run on that platform. Like, I'm going to protect you guys. Like, I have everyone on my side. What do you have to lose? I'm going to fight for you. I'm going to decriminalize it. Overseas, we're not going to work with these people that hang gay people, that stone them in these countries. And guess what? The Republicans cheered on him. He took a risk by saying something like that. But he also said, religious liberties, that's a real thing. Like, you can't expect one group of people to want equality and rights, but then take it away from another group. I mean, we have a very diverse country. We're a huge melting pot, and it's important that everyone has equal rights. And if you are in a religious entity, that's your right. Like, I don't have to go to you, and you don't have to take care of me. There's plenty of, places to go. And that I'm Catholic, 100%. Like, I believe in my religion, 100%.
So
like that, straight up. And You know, it's unfortunate the church does not recognize my marriage. But you know what? That's okay. Jesus does.
Mhm.
And
So,
Jesus loves everyone. I don't have to go there.
Yeah,
I'll
the,
have a
so that
at home. Like it's fine. Like that's a whole nother thing. Like why am I gonna, go there? And not everyone's gonna like you in life. Okay. You can't go everywhere where everyone's like, oh, no, that person's not racist. That person's not a homophobe. Let's be realistic. It will always exist. There's radicals on every side of the equation. It's
yeah.
just fact. You just have to, hopefully raise your children in a way where love and tolerance is number one, and respect for people. We are all Americans. We're a melting pot, and that's a beautiful thing. Like if people just recognize that, you know.
And I actually lost a lot of fans slash friends 2012 time frame when I said that the word marriage should just be retired in the US, that the word marriage should just go away, that should become a uh, primarily religious thing, because that's the reason that the Republicans at the time, the uh, Protestants or whatever you want to call them, the Ross, what's the word I'm looking for? The something right, the Christian right.
oh, I mean, the Christian right, the biblical right,
There's an actual
the
term for it,
religious
whatever.
right.
That group was so adamantly against gay marriage. I was like, oh look, let's retire the word marriage. That is something that comes from religion. Let's let the religious group have that back. Let's take that term away. That's the fight. The fight is over the word. Let's take the word away. What they're really fighting for is equal protection under the law. That's what they really want. They don't want the word. They want equal protection under the law. They want to be able to, have, beneficiary rights to their spouse's property, be able to be in the hospital with their spouse. They don't care about the word. They care about the rights under the law. I was like, let's retire the word and come up with a new term. And if you want to be married, you have to do that in a church. But if you want to be in a, government union, you can be in a government union where you get these benefits. But I got a lot of flack from that because you're not a Christian. Da, da, da. I was like, dude, I'm definitely a Christian. I just don't see the reason to fight this anymore. It doesn't make any sense. They're not fighting for, to be married in a church. They're just wanting equal protection underneath the law. They just want to be able to say, at the end of the day, this is my spouse. He's my spouse.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all they really care about. They don't care about what word they use. They just want to ensure that they get the same rights that you do, that I do, that everyone else does, and that's all they care about. So
Yep. Well,
I
and
got a lot of
other part of that,
flack for that one.
the other part of that is that, okay, so Frankie, you're a Catholic, so as a Catholic, you're taught that marriage only exists when it's done inside the Catholic Church. That any marriage outside the Catholic Church is not a marriage. So we believe basically that all Lutherans or all Presbyterians or all Baptists or all Jewish people, they're not actually married because marriage only exists within the church if married by a priest, ordained priest. So if you don't like it, then simple. Don't consider them to be married. That's on you. It's a word. It's all it is. It's a word. Words change meaning throughout the course of history. Just look at the word gay. Look at the word day. Look at all these different words. There's all kinds of examples there. And so the argument I always made to people is when they said, "Well, it's a sin. It's a sin." Okay, and are you sinful? Because if you're sinful, you don't get to judge somebody else for being sinful. That's fine. If you believe it's a sin, then you believe it's a sin, and that's fine. That's perfectly legitimate for you to believe it's a sin. But that doesn't mean you get to tell them how to live their lives. I sin every day. Kyle sins every day. Our sin is no greater, no less. It's no different than your sin. A sin is a sin, is a sin, is a sin. It doesn't matter. And here in Texas, unfortunately, one of our very first interviews was with the head of the Log Cabin Republicans, which is the LGBTQ, caucusing Republicans. And they were denied the right to caucus with the Texas GOP at the state convention. And we had the president on of that group to talk about it. And one of the big things, the reasons that the state voted not against it was there's a state senator who's pretty powerful in the state party. And he said, well, they don't believe in God the same way we do. And it's the fuck, dude. because they want to end abortion. They want to lower tax rates. They want to increase individual freedoms. They want to vote for everything you want to vote for, and you're driving them away. And not only are you driving them away, but you're giving anybody that they're trying to reach out to, that they're trying to explain why they should come over to our side, you're giving them a further excuse to run further away, to run towards the other side, to run towards that safe haven. If you say they don't believe in God the way we do, you've just excluded everybody that's not you individually, because nobody believes in God the same way. There's no two people on this United States or this earth that believe in God 100% the same way. We all read the Bible. We all interpret it slightly differently. There's all things that we think are more or less important than others. You can line 100 Catholics up in a room and you'll get 100 different opinions on Catholicism, because nobody believes the same way. We've got to be more inclusive, and we have to understand that it's not about how you do certain things. It's about, do you believe in the things that we believe in as Republicans? Do you believe in individual liberty? Do you believe in the right to life? Do you believe that people should have the right to go out and find jobs and work and be self-sufficient? If you believe in those things, I want you here with me. I want you standing by my side. I don't care what color your hair is, what color your skin is, what color your eyes in, or what person's hand you decide to hold while you're standing there. I want you here with us.
A clap to that.
So, I mean, have you gotten any...
Let's give him a second, because your husband said something off screen earlier.
What did
he say? Let's get back to that. What was that he was asking?
Oh, he wanted me to go back to the whole like marriage thing, the civil union thing, and how we did all of those things, and we pretty much talked about that at this point. Yeah, we've done it all. Domestic partnership at first, then we did the civil union, and then finally we did the marriage. So we've been together 15 years. Our anniversary is July 3rd. You know, we were young when we met.
Happy young anniversary. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, it's just good families, and you know, it's just, we're all about that, like community, friendship, family, love, inclusion. Everyone's a very hardworking, you know, in our community, and just wanting to accept everybody. You know, there's no point in division.
Yes.
And I think eventually the generations that come up, like the new young generation that comes up into the parties and in the political system, are going to be better than the old people.
Of course.
Yeah. You know, it's going to be totally different. And because we're Americans, we have that faith in that anything is possible. And then this is the most forgiving country that you can be in, if you think about it.
So that reminds me, because Democrats always like to say that the party switched after the 1960s, because all of a sudden people in the South started voting Democrat or started voting Republican after centuries of being Democrat. And it's not that the party switched in beliefs. The party switched in location. That is true, because a lot of the people in the South moved to the North after the Civil War because of job opportunities, because that was where there were jobs. In the Reconstruction era in the South, we had the carpetbaggers, the Republicans who came from the North down to the South because there was now political opportunity. There was opportunities to start, you know, because Democrats weren't allowed to run. If you had served in the Confederacy, you weren't allowed to run for office in the South. So all these carpetbaggers came from the North who were Republicans, because now it gave them an opportunity to win a seat in Congress, whatever. And then they say, okay, well, Nixon went after the racists, and he spoke to the racists. Nixon didn't go after the 80-year-olds in the South. Nixon went after the 30-year-olds, like you said. The people that weren't alive during the Reconstruction era, or who were very young, not Reconstruction, I'm sorry, the Civil Rights Movement, who were very young during that time and were more sympathetic to individual rights, individual liberties, and to the African-American community, because they had seen the sins of their father. And they were more willing to say, wait, I don't agree with that. I saw what my dad did. I saw them get the water hose and turn it on Martin Luther King when he did nothing wrong. So now I'm more willing. So the 80-year-olds, the 70-year-olds, the 50-year-olds that were set stone, they continued voting Democrat. They continued to run as Democrats. George Wallace, all those guys, they kept. Thurgood Marshall, all those guys stayed. It was the younger generation that Nixon went after, and that's what he won. And that's what now is the 70-year-olds that are voting Republican in the South. But there's another topic that we haven't really got to, and I've been wanting to bring it up because we talked about individual liberty, the Title VII decision that just came out from the Supreme Court that says that discrimination, workplace discrimination, anti-workplace discrimination laws should extend to people who are LGBTQ or transsexual or have a different gender identity. And we heard about this about one day from the press. And then it went away, and I've got a great theory of why it went away. Is because Justice Gorsuch, the most conservative member of the court, wrote the majority opinion, and the left, the media, does not want to spread the narrative that Trump's appointee is the one who wrote the majority opinion for this and the key vote in the system.
Right.
So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm so happy that they I mean, that should have been passed. I mean, 100%. Everyone deserves that not to be discriminated against in the workplace. And the civil rights, I mean, everyone deserves that, 100%. And I actually really love Gorsuch. I think he's an amazing justice. I see him speak. I go, this he's a good man. Like, you can just tell he's a good man. And what he did, that's great and what did Trump say after that? That's the decision, and that's what we'll live with. He doesn't care. Yep. He just wants everyone to have rights. That is not his agenda. Like, he's not out there like, I'm taking this away. Like, it's like the boogeyman. You know what I mean? Like, that's the way they're painting the picture, and the media didn't want to give him that credit. And so, yeah, you're right. They just one day and it was gone.
Do you think the reason that they paint him to be the boogeyman is because he reversed Obama's decision on transsexuals and the military?
That could be a little tricky. That's a tricky topic. I don't know enough about that. What I can say is I understand where he was coming from with that when it comes to protecting people. It could be very dangerous. You guys are in the military. What can happen, and the medicine and all that.
The ban only applies to people who are actively going through transition. It does not apply to people who are already transitioned or who think they're who have gender, what we would call gender dysphoria, or who believe they're a different gender than what they biologically are. Oh. So there are people serving in the military today who are men physically, biologically, who believe they're women, and they're allowed to serve because they're not actively taking the medication, they're not actively on the hormone replacement, because that creates psychological issues when you're on these hormone replacements. And it creates where one person may go through it and they may be perfectly fine. The next person might go through it and they may kill everybody within the 30-yard radius of them. So it is a safety precaution that, hey, and then it also is, okay, if that person gets deployed and they don't have access to these drugs anymore, what happens? Right? What happens if you're halfway with it and then you stop? I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I play one on TV. But, I don't know what would happen.
Well, you clarified that. I mean, that makes perfect. So they're not banned from serving in the military. That's number one. But if you are going through the transition, it's very difficult on you. And you may not be at that point where you should be going in that direction yet. Finish what you have to do. Get to that place where you feel comfortable and feel safe. And then you go and actively serve your country. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and I served with people who were openly gay, and we didn't have a problem with it. Our joke was, hey man, I'm fine, because if you love me, you're more willing to help me and take care of me and make sure I get home. That's fine. And most of these guys were gay, but they wasn't the kind of it was, oh well, you're going to accept it. It was, I'm gay. That's just a part of my life. This is just a thing about me. It's not going to affect my work ethic. It's not going to affect who I am. It's not going to affect how I act around you guys. And I'll make sure that you guys don't feel weird with me around you by, modifying certain things. So, one of the things is group showers. That's a place where, okay, you might feel weird if you're heterosexual, you might feel weird with a homosexual in the room. Okay, he didn't shower in the same room as we did, to make sure we weren't worried about it, to make sure we weren't concerned about it. Not that a lot of guys probably were, but just as a precaution.
Well, that makes perfectly sense. I mean, let's be realistic here. That makes sense. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like, people have gone to so many different extremes that they don't think logically anymore. It's like there is a middle ground here.
Yeah.
And I think where most people are in the middle, if we just like talk to each other and understand where we're coming from and be honest, receptive, we can get in that middle ground and really understand what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
All these points make perfect sense.
Now, earlier you said that you were in the yoga industry as well as the fashion/beauty industry. Are you your own business owner, or are you you work for somebody?
I'm a business owner. I also have freelance for different companies at the same time. So I'm always, again, dipping my feet into different avenues. I'm an independent contractor. So you get gigs and you work for different studios, but you're kind of your own employer. So that whole entire community I love them all. They're just good people.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I kind of enjoy my craft.
Do you think that the fact that you are your own employer, that you are, independent, that what helped lead you to more of the Republican side? Because they do offer better incentives as far as like tax breaks and loans and incentives for small business owners, whereas the Democrats are more about government control and working for a big employer so that you can get any kind of benefits.
I really honestly didn't even think about that. I just didn't like the whole where they were going with socialism and just expanding too much, big government controlling. I didn't really think about what you said, to be honest with you. Like, I'm not going to say that,
So,
okay.
So one of the big kicks I'm on right now is that I want us, I think as a country, we have to stop applying intent to people on the other side. So I think like you that I'm socially liberal as a human being. I don't care what you do. As a conservative, what you do inside your home does not affect me in the least. Who you marry, who you're with, all of that doesn't affect me whatsoever. And as long as you're not affecting me, as long as you're not making me change my way of life, then I should have no care what you're doing in your life. But we see a lot of people on the left who like to apply intent to people on the right, and people on the right who do the same. They like to apply intent to people on the left. And I think we have to stop doing that. I think, what I like to say to a lot of people is, look, I'm not going to say that you're a Democrat, so you're a racist, but don't say it to me. Just let's understand that we have different logic, that we have different beliefs, and that maybe we're both trying to solve the same problem. We just think a different solution is the answer. And one of the things I've been doing a lot lately is I've been trying to explain to progressives as an economist why their economic plans benefit major billionaires, because they all are anti-billionaire as they come, but yet the policies they push are the same policies billionaires want. And I keep saying, okay, you want a $15 an hour minimum wage. Jeff Bezos wants a $15 an hour minimum wage. Why? Why does Jeff Bezos want a $15 an hour minimum wage? It's because it benefits him. His competitors cost him more money than paying his employees $15 an hour. And he realizes that. He knows that if he can get Walmart to pay their employees $15 an hour, and Target, and then all the mom and pops, then he can raise his prices because he can automate those jobs away and not pay for them after all. And then he makes $15 an hour, or he makes more money because as they raise their prices, he raises his prices, but because his costs don't go up, now he makes more money. Have you been able to reach out to any of your more progressively liberal friends and try to explain to them, and what argument do you use? Because maybe it's an argument I'd like to adapt. Why the conservative party, why the conservative movement, not necessarily the Republican movement, but the conservative movement actually benefits their lives.
I just talk about really of like the past 3 years, how our economy and the stock market and really has benefited, people's 401k, retirement, businesses, more employment, unemployment dropped. I talk about more in that aspect of like how everybody was profiting from a Trump presidency the first 3 years before the pandemic. But then if you really think about it, where we are now is still at the highest point when Obama hit his max, in terms of the economy. So think about if we, let's just say we didn't have a Trump presidency, we wouldn't have had those stimulus checks. There would have been no money. Imagine Bernie or somebody, like there would have been nothing for anybody because they would have already went through it. So I kind of try to speak in that aspect of the economics of a Trump presidency and how consumer confidence. I mean, people would just seem like they're more excited to go out and spend money, retail. You just notice a shift in spending with. You just felt comfortable knowing that this was happening, the stock market. You watched it grow, and you knew that was like a completely different thing from the past administration. You didn't see that benefit, You guys give me 1 second.
Go ahead.
Sure.
Go ahead. Kyle and I can talk. Don't worry about it.
We've never been accused of being quiet in our lives.
No.
Not once.
I've been accused of being shy most of my life. Not willing
got
to
accused
talk
of
to
being-
strangers.
You did?
Yeah, I'm being facetious.
I'm about to say, when did that happen?
I'm joking.
I was going to say, I don't remember that ever once. I remember mom and dad telling us don't talk to strangers, and then at the same time, teaching us to be open and happy and, nice to everybody. So it was like, which ones are the strangers? Because they've all been really nice to me. They're all willing to say hi. They're all willing to, give me high fives, whatever it may be. Ross, I think you're on mute. Yep, you're on mute. Still on mute. Nope, still can't hear you.
Okay, I'm here. Sorry.
That's fine. Ross is having some technical
Ross,
difficulties
audio.
on his end. Oh, drinking a White Claw.
Yep, being a Karen.
I had my shiner earlier, so I finished that.
Can you hear me now?
I can. Yeah, you're coming back now.
So the cable in the bottom of my microphone, it came out somehow a little bit, just enough that my microphone was still on. The little green light was on. So I was like, oh well, it's on, but it wasn't picking up on my computer. So I plugged it back in, and all of a sudden I came back.
Miracles how when you plug stuff in, it works. It's crazy.
It'd been working to this point, so it's not like it was. Oh, I just never did it.
Yeah.
So Frankie, I mean, Kyle and I have you've asked a couple questions, but we've kind of led the conversation to this point. Mm-hmm. What are some things, if we haven't covered them tonight, or things that you just want to talk about that we haven't talked about? What are some things that are important to you, and we'll try to give our opinions on them.
I'm really just trying to spread the word and to reach out to people, to investigate more and find out the facts rather than lead with emotion. Mm-hmm. And another thing is, my father-in-law brought this up before. He's like, do you really believe the polls? And he said, if you really think about it, like Fox News ratings are at its highest, right? Trump's rallies are insane. Look at how many people he has, and just like it, for example, Instagram following compared to Biden. And then read the comments. How many more comments are pro-Trump than Biden? I mean, it just makes no sense, these polls to me. And they toot their horn on these pollsters of like, oh, well, look at the swing states and Trump is really not doing well. And then, Hillary, we had that same situation. But if you really look at what's going on, if you pay attention to the people, the masses, and the rallies, and how Biden can't even form a complete sentence, how can you believe the damn polls? Yeah. Like that, I don't understand how that works with the polls.
So as a guy who studied data science, I can tell you that polls are super easy to manipulate. Right? I can manipulate a poll really easily. And another thing we see on this is, okay, they tell us how many, the sample sizes they're getting, right? And they're usually like 1,000 people are the sample sizes for these polls, which means that if I went to one floor of a major building, I could get that sample size. So they're not sampling enough people, and they're not telling us who they're sampling. So what they do is they say, oh, we try to get a 50-50 split of Republicans and Democrats. There's no proof of that whatsoever. There's no proof they're getting a 50-50 split of Republicans and Democrats. More than likely, no, because they call middle of the day, right? So chances are they're getting people who are at home. People who are at home in the middle of the day, more likely to vote liberal because they probably want more free shit. Republicans tend to be the guys at work. Secondly is the way they ask questions can lead to how people get it. And then another thing we know is that polls, the left has accused the right of voter suppression for years. But polls are a means of voter suppression, especially the way we're seeing them right now. Their goal with these polls is to look at Republicans and say, you have no chance, just stay home. There's no point for you to go to the polls. You're so far behind that you may as well not even go to the ballot box because you can't win. So do something else that day. And we saw that with I said this on Twitter the other day. The 2020 polls are starting to look a lot like the 2016 polls looked. Mm-hmm. It's the same tactic they used in 2016. Hillary's up by 10. Hillary's up by 15. It's not a matter of can she win Texas? Can she win? And it was like she never stood a chance in Texas ever. Never. She lost by 10 points in Texas. The second thing is this is now the same tactic they use there. It's voter suppression is what it is. It's their goal is that can I get my guys to go vote and get their guys to stay home? So
yeah, they're encouraging the Democrat voting bloc to say, we've got this. Let's just keep going. We just got to get out there and vote and we'll win it. Whereas at the same time, they're telling the Republicans, you ain't got no chance in hell, bro. Why even waste your time, man?
That and independents look at polls. And when they look at polls, you want to be on the winning team, right? So you're more likely to vote for the person you think is going to win anyway than you would be for the guy you know is going to lose or you think is going to lose. So this can help swing independent voters. And as we see a growing segment of independent voters, as the right moves further right sometimes, and as the left has moved further left, that means the people in the middle have been less allegiant to the party. So we're seeing more people willing to vote based on who they think will win or other things. So this is tactically by the left the exact same thing they did in 2016, a form of voter suppression.
That makes perfect sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's the one thing they're very afraid of is that the silent majority is going to truly awaken and come out roaring. And
as they did in 16.
Yeah. And that's why you see them blasting the Electoral College. It wasn't fair that the Electoral College is why Trump won. Hillary won the popular election by 2.5 million or something of that nature.
Abraham
She
Lincoln
should be president.
Lost the popular vote too.
Yeah. So it's not the first time that a president has lost the popular election but won the presidency. The key factor here is that Trump campaigned heavily in Wisconsin because he knew that it was a battleground state and that it was going to be one of the ones that truly impacted the election. Hillary didn't visit the state one time during the 2016 election cycle. Trump ended up winning and therefore won the presidency, and he's now still your president 3.5 years later. And more than likely, good chance of getting reelected here in November if the same, thing happens again. So it's going to be interesting to see because Joe Biden has agreed to do 3 debates with Trump. Is that what I heard? 3 debates? And it's going to be very interesting to see how well or ill prepared Joe is for these debates, because if he goes on a stumbling gaffe, Trump's not going to let him, off easy. Trump's going to pounce on that. That's one of the reasons he won the original primary back in 2016 is because of how aggressive he is in debates, how strategic he is on when to attack and when to hold back. And he went after his one, in my opinion, one true opponent in Ted Cruz and really belittled him. And Cruz is more of a thinker, more of a statistician. So he didn't really combat the attacks that Trump had, and it made him look weak, and therefore Trump was able to win the election. Now, in all is fair in love and war, and from all accounts, it sounds like Trump and Cruz are really good friends today because they're all on the same page and they both want America to succeed. But at the time, Cruz was, very unhappy with what Trump was doing just because he didn't know how to combat it. And if Biden comes to these debates and isn't ready mentally or, on his game, Trump is going to lambast him. And it's going to make him look even weaker than he already does.
You almost feel bad for the guy.
Well,
almost feels like it's going to be elder abuse.
you see him anytime he's live or anything like that. You always notice his wife is right beside him, and it's like, why does his wife always have to be right beside him when he's live? Is she like there to catch him or something? Like, is she holding him up, or
unless it's his sister?
Well, he doesn't know, right? He's not sure which one's which anymore. Favorite part of the Trump rally speech in Tulsa. That was the greatest. That line, and I mean, the fact is that it was true. It made it really funny. I mean, it's to the point where with Biden, it's like you don't seem to mentally be capable of doing the things that you're supposed to be able to do if you're running for president. And how is it that you won the president, your primary? I don't understand. Like, Bernie Sanders seemed to have so much support than you on the left, and yet you won. It seems like another one of these Hillary 16 screw jobs where the DNC has screwed over, hijacked it in order to keep the moderates around, because they knew that if Bernie was the candidate, Trump runs away with it. It's a landslide. Because there was a lot of moderates who would come back over to that. Even some of the never Trumpers would have voted third party over voting Sanders, but they'll vote Biden. And third party is what screwed 2016 for him.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I mean, the never Trumper thing, that's just like ego getting in the way. It's like your pride. That's it. There's no other excuse for that one. Because I know people that did not vote for him, did not like him, and now they are totally voting for him. They can't even believe what's happening on the other side,
Didn't vote for him, didn't like him.
Well, because you like Ted Cruz.
You're talking about
Still don't love him. But I'm definitely going to be voting for him.
So the thing I told Kyle from the I was in the primaries, I didn't vote for Trump. I was kind of Ted Cruz. I was kind of Carly Fiorina.
Texas, hello.
Yeah. But now, one of the things I've told Kyle, when we first started the show, is with Trump, it's policy versus persona, right? And with Trump, he talks a lot, and some of the stuff he says is wild, and you're just like, oh man, come on, just shut up a little bit. Let us work for you in the background here. But when you look at his policy, if you would just tune out Twitter and anything he said on Twitter, and you just look at what he's done for the past 3.5 years, you'd say he's done a really good job as a president. He's strengthened NATO. He's strengthened our economy. He got the lowest black unemployment. He got home ownership up. He got, as you talked about, decriminalizing homosexuality outside of the United States and forcing those countries to be more inclusive into those communities. Appointing the first homosexual man as an ambassador, openly homosexual man, because I'm sure that one of them before was probably, but we don't know that. We don't have a clue. Yeah, right? Edgar Hoover has his J. Edgar Hoover. We all have our suspicions, right? But he's done a lot of good things. And another thing that doesn't get talked about is for the first time in 30 years, the wage disparity gap was decreasing under Trump. That low-income wages were rising faster than high-income wages. That's the first time in 30 years that's occurred. So as an economist, you look at these things and you say these are all statistically good things. Because for wages to grow, for low-income wages to grow, you need to shrink the labor market. You need to shrink the supply of labor. We are the supply of labor. As long as there's an abundant supply of labor, wages are not going to grow because you can be replaced. If you go to your boss and you say, I need more money, unless you're exceptionally talented, your boss is just going to say, I can just replace you with the next guy in line, dude. I got 5 people waiting to replace you. But when we make jobs scarce, or make labor scarce, then all of a sudden wages rise because the boss is saying, shit, I can't replace him. I gotta give him some more money. Otherwise he's going to walk and go to the next guy. And I live in Midland, Texas, where oil and gas is king. But all of our sub-industries are doing so much better because of that. At our minimum wage at our Walmart is $14 an hour. That's starting pay at Walmart. McDonald's is $12 an hour starting pay. There's no dollar menu at our McDonald's. It's a $2 menu because they can't afford a $1 menu. And nobody here gives a crap. We all are fine with it because we make enough money that we don't care. But what it does is because the McDonald's knows that if they don't pay that, those guys are just going to go work in the oil field. And they're going to make more money. And Walmart knows that if they don't pay their people that much, they're not going to stay. They're going to go away. We can't keep police here because the police come here and they work for a couple months and they go, holy crap, I could go work as a safety guy in the oil field and make more money. So now the police get more money here and better benefits. So wage growth from the bottom up is much healthier for an economy than wage growth from The government saying we have to, because that creates inflation, that creates a lot of other things. Trump has done a very good job statistically. Now, there's times when he opens his mouth that I go, God, dude, just come on. It's hard.
Sense
You
of
make it hard.
humor. I think that's what people don't understand. It's like he's got a sense of humor. He knows how to like twist the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the way he says things, he knows the media's going to talk about it the next day. It's going to like blast in the news cycle, and it's going to drive up his base. Like he's playing everybody in the media like a puppet. You know, let's be real with that. 100%.
Well, and another
They
thing,
go into it. They dive right in every time.
another thing about him is that he's a negotiator, right? As a businessman, he's a negotiator, and we saw this when he shut the government down over the border wall. And he kept telling them, I want $25 billion. I want $25 billion. And the Democrats said, we're giving you zero, dude. You're not getting crap. You're not going to get $1 from us for that border wall. You're not going to get a penny. Well, they negotiate for a while back, and he keeps saying 25, 25, 25. And what I told Kyle is, watch what he's doing here. It's like when you wanted your dad to give you $20 so you could go to the movies. You didn't ask for $20. You asked for 50. Because if you ask for 50 and you ask for 50 and you ask for 50 and you ask for 50, then you go ask for 20. 20 doesn't seem so bad now. 20 seems reasonable. 20, oh, okay, well, yeah, at least he's not asking for 50 anymore. Almost exactly what happened. Trump keeps asking for 25. He keeps asking for 25. He keeps asking for 25. Finally, he goes, I'll take 5. And the Democrats celebrated as a victory. See, he wanted 25, and we only gave him 5. But wait a minute. You were going to give him nothing. And now he got 5. And 5 will get him started. 5 will get wall being built. So you said, no, we're not going to build the wall. We're not going to do any of this. But he's building a wall now. And for the Ann Coulters of the world who say it's not happening fast enough, he's the first president that's actually doing it who said he was going to do it. So you can say it's not happening fast enough for your liking. Fine. Government's not meant to work quickly. It's not. It works slowly. That's why local governments are better. But at least it is happening. At least we're getting somewhere with it.
Hey, so we covered a topic the other night that neither you or I really knew how to answer, and really didn't honestly pertain to us. But Frankie, it really does kind of pertain to you and your community. We see where Sony was flying the LGBTQ flag this month as part of their their logo in both the U.S. and in Europe. But shockingly, in Saudi Arabia and the rest of the Middle East, there is no rainbow flag on their logo. It's only in the predominantly white countries. What's your opinion on that, if any? Do you care, or is it pandering, or is it just nice that they're doing it, but you understand why they're not doing it over there?
You pretty much answered it. Yeah. I mean, that to me is just like, again, all these media, not to just say that, but like all these companies, they know what they're doing. They try to like kind of pander and include and like celebrate and do it where it's like going to be accepted, but not where it's not going to be accepted. And I get it, it's valid. That to me is like, whatever. Go ahead, put your flag there. Don't put it there. That's not going to like make my day tomorrow. That's not going to do anything for me. That doesn't bother me at all. I think people think about things like that too much sometimes in my community, where they like kind of get like hung up on certain things. Like if it's not directly affecting me, I don't care.
That's a good attitude about it.
Yeah.
Well, Frankie, I mean, we've covered a lot. Again, I want to open the opportunity. Is there anything more you want to talk about? Because I mean, I feel like we've had a really good conversation at this point, and I don't want to run you off, but at the same time, if we've come to that point, we've come to that point in the night, and I know in New Jersey, it might be getting a little late for you.
10 o'clock.
Almost 10 o'clock, and you need your beauty rest.
I'm gonna go watch I DVR'd it, the town hall now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's at the same time for you guys there, or it's playing later, or you don't care.
The Wisconsin town hall.
I think so.
Yeah, I'm sure Fox will have it on repeat here soon.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, thank you for bringing me on here to hang out with you guys tonight. And anytime, we'll do it again.
Well, we appreciate it. And so we always extend this invitation. We do shows twice a week. We do interviews like this on Thursdays. So for anybody that's watching in the audience, make sure you hit subscribe. Make sure you hit the like notification button on this video so Frankie gets a lot of thumbs up. And make sure you hit that notification bell that lets you know when we're going live, so you get an idea. You can, it'll let you know about 30 minutes beforehand, hey, they're about to go live. And then on the other side of that is we do Monday shows where sometimes we'll have panels like Fox News does, where we'll bring in a couple different people to really get some diverse viewpoints on a topic. And we would love, if ever there's a topic that we need somebody on of your perspective, that we would love for you to come back and talk to us about certain things and give us your perspective on those things.
That sounds good. I'd like that. All right.
Well, guys, thank you so much for watching tonight. Thank you so much for being with us. Frankie, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a great conversation. Everybody, go like Frankie. The links to his TikTok are in the description of this video. So if you don't already follow him on TikTok, go to the link in the description. Click the button. You can follow him on TikTok. I think he needs to be around 2.5 million, 3 million followers on TikTok, Kyle. Somewhere in there we need to get him to.
Yeah, that's where we need to get him to. I think he's got me beat by about $4.5 grand right now, if not more than that.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's not hard.
I broke 200 today. What?
All right. That's not as bad as it's been in the past. We had a lady on not too long ago that was at 45,000 Twitter followers. And
Good
like,
God, yeah.
you've only got me beat by 41,000.
You got to do those dances.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
All right. So for everybody,
I don't think you'll see that.
So anybody that's new to this channel, please do hit the subscribe button. It does help the channel out. It does help us, and it lets you know when we're coming on. We try to put on great content. Kyle's over there on the other side, and thank you so much for paying attention to us, liking us, and hopefully we'll see you in the future.
Yes, sir. Thanks and gig 'em, and God bless.
Good night, everybody. God bless you all, and thank you so much, Frankie, again from the bottom of our heart for joining us.
Thank you.
I just keep calling on the help of my peers, but their success makes me distressed. Things will be better when I disappear, bouncing from city to state. Nothing feels great, I'm a committed disgrace. If I could get up, hold my chin up, confidence is just a bluff for the weak. Might take a peek in my self-pity to realize it's selfishness for the meek. Just take these pills, it makes it better, but withdrawals will make you seize up and tweak. You gotta buy it every month, we change the brand, it's more expensive this week. I'll hold my chin up, keep this grin up like my mother, she can worry like me. But if I have you, life is worth it, love is more than a contagious disease. I think of you, I think of me, a family, is this another pipe dream? But if these dreams mean anything, I'm gonna think whatever I want to think. I just can't convince myself to look. Why can't I be strong in the place where you read your books? I just can't rely on how